chest. See. Sedens corpo di Baraggio. You spoof of visibility in a freak fog of mixed sex cases among Goat's Hill, Cat and Plain Mousy, Bigamy Bob and his old Shan Vocht, the Black Friars treacle plaster, outrage belittled. Therewith was released in that Kingswick of Humidia a poisoning volume of cloud barrage indeed. Yet all they who heard or re-delivered are now with that family of bards, and Virgo Bretas himself, and the crowd of caraculacticors. As much no more as be they not yet now, or had they then not ever been. Can be in some future we shall presently hear, amid those zouave players of Inkerman, the mime miming the Mick, and his Nick miming their Maggies. Hilton St. Just, Mr. Frank Smith, Ivan St. Dostel, Mr. J.F. Jones, Coleman of Lucan taken 4 parts, a choir of the O'Doyles, double sixing the chorus in Fen Macall and the servant vioys of Loch Neck, Galloper Tropler, and Harley Quinn the zither of the past, with his merry men all, zim 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 zim. Of all the persons in this Iowigler saga, which, though thorough readable to int from, and is from tub to bottom, all false tissues, antibellus, and non-actionable, and this applies to its whole volume, of poor Osty-Fosty, described as quite a musical genius in a small way, and the owner of an exceedingly nice ear, with tenorist voice to match, not alone, but a very major poet of the poorly military order. He began Tunisonian, but worked his passage up as far as the we all hang together, and Emodovites, no one end is known. If they whistled him before he had curtains up, they are whistling him still after his curtains doom, et fou. His husband, poor old Ahara, Okaroff, crestfallen by things, and down at heels all the time they squeak, except at the Zaznok Ardri shilling at the conclusion of the Crimean War, and having flown his wild geese, alone in crowds, to wander on like surely loony, enlisted in Tyrone's horse, the Irish whites, and sold it up a bit with Wolsey under the assumed name of Blanco Fusilovna, Buklovich, spurious, after which the core and the marble halls of Pump Court Columbarium, the home of the old Seekings, looked upon each other and queth their haven evermore, for it transpires that on the other side of the water it came about that on that field of Vasilav's Cornix, inauspiciously with his unity perished, saying, this papal leafless to old chap give, Wall chol clates for mother-in-law's boil. Poor old dear Paul Horan, to satisfy his literary as well as his criminal aspirations, at the suggestions thrown out by the doomster in loquacity lunacy, so says the Dublin Intelligence, was thrown into a Ridley's for inmates in the northern counties. Under the name of O'Rani, he may have been the utility man of the troop capable of sustaining long parts at short notice. He was. Sordid Sam, a dour, decent de Blancer, the unwashed haunted always by his ham, the unwished at a word from Israfel, the summoner, passed away painlessly after a life's ups and downs one Halloween night, ebrous and in a state of nature, propelled from behind into the great beyond by foot-blows, cool and clouted, upon his oyster and atlas, unbehanged and behooved, and behicked and behulked, of his last fish and blood bed-scrappers, a Norwegian, and his mate of the she-wolfing class. Though the last straw glimped, his bearing his stage thunkard is said. The pitfall and gagged him as prompt boxer. To have solemnly said, as had the brief thought but fell, until his head like a base dropped neck fussed, till a bung quite cogged. Midrams O'Loughlin's has come through. Now let the sensible selves of my egurge, as Michaelis de Cusack calls them, of all of whose I, in my hereafter, of uns course, by recourse, demissionary, by the coincidence of their contraries, re-emerge in that identity of undiscernibles, where the Baxters and the Fleshmans may they cease to be divil uns, and when at this point, through the iron thrust of his cockspurt, start might have prepared us, we are well nigh stink-potted by the mustard punge in the tail end. This outend in brown, candle-stuck, melt Nolans into peas. Han var disliking as he was to Druro drama, her wife Langley the prophet, and the decentest doesn't short of a frusker whoever stuck his spickle through the spoke, disappeared, in which to doing he has taken all the French leaves unavailable out of calumny-killers' pravities, from the surface of this earth, that austral plain he had transmired himself to so entirely spuriously. The mother of the book, with a dusk-whisk, tabularizing his obliteration done upon her involucrum, as to tickle the speculative to all but opine, since the levy who might have been Langley may really have been a redivis of paganism, or a volunteer Woosden, that the hobo, who possessed a large amount of the humoresque, had transtooled his funster's latitat to his finsterest innermost. Be she, again, if Father San Brown, tea and toaster, to that quaintest dressed of yarn spinners, is Padre Don Bruno, trow and troyster to the Queen of Ear Spain, was the Reverend the Sodality Director, that eupeptic vice-flayer, a bare-faced Carmelite, to whose palpitating pulpit, which of us but remembers the rare, availant, and honourable frater Mr. Norlandmore and Brawn, sinning society sirens? See the Roman Catholic Prespasum. Fortunately became so enthusiastically attached, and was an objectionable ass, who very occasionally cockarded a raffles ticket on his hat, which he wore all to one side, like the handle of his pan. If her elegance saw him, she'd have the canary, and was semi-privately convicted of malpractices, with his hot-washed table-knife, glossing over the cark in his pocket, that same snob of the Dunhill, fully several yearshaums riper. Encountered by the General on that red-letter morning of May noon, Jove's Day, and were they? Freet. When Pishlin Phil once throws his lips, 'tis folly to be fortune flaunting, and whoever's gone to Mick's Hotel by the Salt Say Water, there's next to nothing we can do, for he's never again to see. It's as nebulous as orthodox fact of the commonest that the shape of the human cloudy fizz, whereas shallow, has long days faded, frequently altered its ego with the passing of the showers. Not original, whence it is a slopperish matter to give in the wet and low visibility, since in the Scheherazade of 1001 Nightingness, that sort of certainty which would identify the body never falls to identifying that individuo in scratch rig, square cut, stock lavalier, regatable oxeter, baggy pants and shufflers, he is often alluded to as Sly Patrick, the island of the alien, was already an incipient lust in the direction of area baldness. One is continually first meeting with odd sorts of others, at all sorts of ages, who was asked by free board school shirkers in drenched coats overall, will con an Otto and tell them Overgate, Vol Porvan Dev, that fisher-bed goat story, of the hardly creditable adventures of the haberdasher, the two Kirchies, and with 3 ankle chums in their bearskin goats, girls and youngers, but he has changed the locks in Thorkel's time. Ya da tra gallery, pimp, chesses, Shosaphat, Okidaboko, 9. Those many warts, those slummy patches, half-sinister wrinkles, what has come over the face on the whole broader E, and shroud of Mount Moo, save us. The large fungo park here has grown. Drink. Sport's a common thing. It was the Lord's own day for damp to wait for postponed regattas, eventualizing his knot of battlecock shuttledore, juxta mare only, and the request for a fully armed explanation was put, in lieu of Pat, to the porty, a native of the sister isle, Meatman or Meccan, by his brogue X-ray's eyes, Lochel Callur and Lochel Oda, which are said to have been average clown Turkish, though the capitalists voiced nasal liquids, and the way he sneezed at these haulers back to the crogs and brins of the Silurian orifices, who, the lesser pilgrimage accomplished, had made Pats and Pigs older insult, the southeast bluffs of the stranger's step-shore, a regifugium, persecutorium, hence hindquarters, as he paused at evenage time for some or so minutes. Hit the pipe, Danny boy. time to one. Barman, I'll take 10 to win. Amid the devil's wan doldrum, Apple by her blossom window and Charlotte at her toss, Panomancy his sole admirers, his only teats in store. For the fragrant Coulabosh, during his weekend pastime of executing with Annie Oakley deadliness the consummatory pairs of provocatives, of which remained provocatively but two, the ones he fell for, Lily and Tooty, Corkham, empties, which had not very long before contained Reed's family. You ruined that before, Soaky, but all the bottles in Sodom history will not soften your blood-thirst. Stout. Having reprimed his repeater and rest-of-roomed his timepiece, his revenances, with still a life or two to spare for a space of his occupancy of a world at a time, rose to his feet, and there, far from Tokahim, in a quiet English garden, commonplace, since known as Whittington Wild, his simple, intensive, quality. My dear brothers, my most dear brothers, as he, so is a supper, as is a sipper, spake of the one, and told of the compassionate, called up before the triad of precocious scare-makers, score-taking, spegulo, ne halpas, al malbellilo, mi credas, que vi estas prava, via dota, la visico responde fraulino, the now to usher mythical habiliments of our Farfar, and author of our Doin. Television kills telephony in Brothers Boyle. Our eyes demand their turn. Let them be seen, and wolf-bone balefires blaze the trail most, if only that Mary Nothing may burst her bibby buckshee. When they set fire, then she's got to glow, so we may stand some chances of warming to what every Sorka batcher, tum or hum, would like to know. The first Humphrey's latitudinous beaver, with puggery behind, calaboose belong Big Boss belong Kang the Tall, his four-in-hand bow, his elbow room setut, the refaced unmentionables of gingerine hue, the state slate umbrella, his gruff Woolsey Wellesley with the Findrin knopfs, and the gauntlet upon the hand, which in an hour, not for him solely evil, had struck down the might, he might have been Destair, of whom his nation seemed almost already to be about to have need, then stealing his thunder, but in the befitting legomena of the smaller country, probable words possibly said, a field family gleaming, a bit diskish, flavoured with a smile, seeing as how his thoughts consisted chiefly of the cheerio he aptly sketched for our soon-to-be second parents, Suck and CYB, the touching scene, the solace of that stilling. Here one might have finfell, boomster rumbombadot. It seems like a landscape from Wildo Picturesque, or some seem on some dim arras, dumb as mum's muttiness, this mimage of the 77th cousin of Christiansen is audible to us, across of wineless air. No odor, nor mere eoi, nor less potent of suggestion than in the tales of the Tinge Mount. Prigged. And there oft after jaunty jogging on an Irish vis-a-vis, insteadily with shoulder to shoulder, Jehu will tell to Christiania, saint to sage, the Humphread of that fall and rise, while Daisy winks at her pinker sister, Among the tussocks and the couple, between the shaft smocks, the couple on the car, and as your who may look like how, on the outher side of his big beltry, your tires and clothes, your nose and paradigm, may, wave a rise in heaven, follow we up his whip vindicative, Thurston's, lo behold, la arbora, la petrusa, the Augustan peace petotum, oaks, the monolith rising stark from the moonlit pine barren, in all fortuitous, ajaxious, rowdy, noisy tenuosity, the angulous hour with ditches bent upon their farm-used tensiles, the soft belling of the fallow deers advertising their milky approach as midnight was striking the hours, letat, and how brightly the great tribune out of the shark's skin smoke wallet, imitation, from his frock, kippers, and by Joshua, he tips up a topping swank cheroot. None of your swellish side, quite the reverse, and how manful he says, pluck to pluck, and licking for looking, he was to just pluggy well, suck that brown boy, O my son, and spend the whole half hour in having her. So of the creek, man, would not Thor be old Gus Brogue? Wherefore he met master, he mean to say, he do say bester of dread republicans at Eagle Cock Hostel, on the run so Tooley Street, and how he wished his honour the bannocks of Gort, and Marioa, and Briarhead, and Puddiwick, your lordship, and the starch box sitting in the pit of his stomachs. A strange wish for you, my friend, and it would poleaxe your son's grandson utterly through. Your own sweat and swear, Flora grunts, heaved his hock, many as the times when they returnified by the hits. Chee cheers for up King Billy, and crow crew crumbles down a bow. Hup boys and hat 'em! See oil beam, they're lost. We find remembrances, their hours to date link these airs, to hear but woe wears. Are those yours of yesterdays, fars and gint to reach, and Paul Lowell women, character the cuss, and his Anne Van Docht, D.E.D. Ended, or sleeping soundlessly, favour with your tongues, intendite. Any dog's life you list may still hear them at it, like sixes and seventies and ever sure as Hawley's comet, Yule Marmon, Thumbraja woman, Storthing boys and dummer girls, as they pass its bleak and bronze portal of your Casa Concordia, Huru more, ni mini frickens, wordless hardy det, Lowe's door on left Milani's, Hugh. Milciento chicken tadu, skudu, tipoti, kiri, tipoti, chakai, roti, kai, makosahib, despensum, usted, senor, and son, suku, sabes, o Thor Bronorm, a Kosrag, thinketh thou gaily, lick pa flay high pa palisa lilong la lang, epialo akur, Batista, to Vavna Duns, le petit, boing going, Ismema to Bumbak, Emias de Poticali, os pipos, Maios es demasiada, Guazo por, o piccolo porcino, we fi undogoyu, Gotchis, the bad mercy on you, Gomakthak. And cod, says he, with mugger's tears, would you care to know the price of a laird? Magus Nick, your nighty novel. Mass travellers, at the mic again, and that bag belly is the buck to goat it. McGay, chappy fellow, how call our univals to witness, how sicker as more liffey eggs is known by our good householders, from your 100 of Mammouth to be which they commercially are in Ahoy, high British quarters, conventional, my guest house and cow handle credits will immediately stand open as straight as that neighbouring monument's fabrication before the hygienic gore. This was where the Reverend Sabbath and Bottlebreaker, with fur bulk forth stretched, touched upon his tricoloured boater, which he uplifted by its pickledy-hoppy. He gave Stetson more than a penny for it, while as oleaginosity of ancestralosis scusiolated down the both pendencies of Evnucisto liptails. Sen Capitulio, a more modestuous, considerably light, never curled a Tom Pocketmouth, cordially inviting the adolescents, who he was wising up to do in like manner what all did, so as he was able to add, lo, before the great schoolmasters. I tell you no story, smile.